The way we were loved in the past often dictates how we are capable of loving in the present. When our early foundation is built on inconsistency or neglect, it creates patterns that follow us into every adult connection. Welcome to Psyche Analysis. Today, we provide a definitive guide to attachment theory and the hidden architecture of our relationships.
So, what's at the very heart of attachment theory? Well, it's something psychologists call internal working models. The best way to think about them is like these unconscious blueprints, right? They get built from the thousands of interactions we have with our earliest caregivers, and they end up shaping our most fundamental beliefs about ourselves and others. You see, if the care we receive is stable and consistent, we build a model where we see ourselves as valued and others as trustworthy. But if that care is unpredictable, well, it does the exact opposite, creating the foundation for the insecure attachment styles we're about to break down.
All right, let's start our exploration of these insecure styles. We're going to begin with one that's really rooted in a deep-seated anxiety about connection, and it comes with a negative view of oneself. This is the anxious-preoccupied style.
So what does this actually look like? Well, someone with this style often feels this really profound need for validation from other people. They can experience significant distress when a partner seems even a little bit distant or unresponsive, and they tend to interpret it as a sign of rejection or even abandonment. And that creates this constant, low-level hum of anxiety that just sits inside their relationships.
And where does a pattern like this come from? The origin is actually quite clear. This style results from the inconsistency of responsiveness from the attachment figure. So think about it. This is forged in a childhood where caregivers were just unpredictable. One minute they might be warm and available, and the next they're distant or preoccupied. So what does a child learn? They learn that to get their needs met, they have to escalate their cries for attention, and that's a pattern that continues right into adulthood.
Okay, so this really gets to the core mechanics of how this all works. You see, insecure attachment styles basically operate on one of two opposing systems for regulating stress. On one side, you've got what are called hyperactivating strategies. Think of this as turning up the volume on your attachment needs. And on the other side, you have deactivating strategies, which is all about suppressing or turning down those very same needs.
Now, the anxious-preoccupied style almost exclusively uses that first one, hyperactivation. So when someone with this style feels threatened or insecure in a relationship, they don't calm down, they ramp everything up. This can show up as extreme proximity seeking, maybe an overdependence on a partner, and a real hypersensitivity to even the slightest hint of rejection.
Okay, now let's go to the complete opposite end of the spectrum. Here we find a style that's characterized by a really deep distrust of others, paired with a positive, but often pretty brittle, view of the self. This is the dismissive-avoidant style.
The real hallmark of the dismissive-avoidant style is this intense discomfort with emotional closeness. And we're not just talking about someone who enjoys their independence. No, this is more of a compulsive self-reliance, and it's driven by a deep-seated fear of depending on anyone else. So you'll often see they're reluctant to open up or self-disclose, and they might even view people who do as being weak.
So, why does this happen? The research points to a clear origin. This pattern is largely the result of consistent rejection of the child's attachment behaviors by the primary caregiver. Just imagine, in childhood, whenever these individuals looked for comfort, their caregivers consistently pushed them away or were just emotionally unavailable. That teaches a child a really painful lesson, doesn't it? My needs for connection won't be met, so it's safer not to have them at all. And this gets us right back to their core mechanic, deactivation. Remember that? They suppress their attachment system. So instead of trying to get closer when they're distressed, they do the opposite. They maximize distance. And this is what shows up as that compulsive independence we talked about, that shutting down of emotions, all to avoid the vulnerability that comes with closeness.
All right, that now brings us to what is easily the most complex and often the most painful attachment style. You might sometimes hear it referred to as disorganized attachment. It carries a negative model of both the self and of other people. This is the fearful-avoidant style.
The internal world of the fearful-avoidant individual is one of profound conflict. You see, they desperately want connection, but at the very same time, they are intensely afraid of it. There's this core belief that they're unworthy of love, and simultaneously that other people are just untrustworthy and will inevitably hurt them. It's a painful paradox.
And crucially, the origin of this style often goes back to a childhood where the caregiver, the one person who's supposed to be a source of safety, is also a source of fear. This can happen because of abuse, neglect, or even a parent who has their own unresolved trauma.
For a child, this creates what is, frankly, a biologically paradoxical situation, where the person you're wired to run to for safety is also the person you need to run from.
So because they're caught in this push-pull of wanting and fearing closeness, their strategy for regulating themselves is, well, it's chaotic. They oscillate back and forth. One moment they might be desperately seeking reassurance, that's a hyperactivating strategy, and the next they might push their partner away out of fear, that's a deactivating one. There is no consistent strategy, only disorganization.
Okay, so after looking at these different patterns of insecurity, it's absolutely vital that we understand the baseline. What does a healthy, functional connection actually look like? Well, that's the secure attachment model. And really, it's elegantly simple. People with a secure attachment operate from a place of worthiness. They have a core belief that they are deserving of love, and they trust that other people are, for the most part, reliable and have good intentions. This is what allows them to be both independent and comfortably dependent, which is the recipe for creating resilient and truly satisfying relationships.
So you might be listening to this and recognizing yourself in one of the insecure styles. And the big question is that pattern set for life? The research is incredibly clear on this. Absolutely not. And that brings us to the protocol for change.
There's this concept called earned security, and it's incredibly powerful. What it means is that even if you started with an insecure foundation, you can consciously work to change your internal working model. Through new, healthy relationships, through what we call corrective emotional experiences, you can actually build a secure attachment style as an adult.
And the clinical pathway for this kind of transformation is really well established. As it's often said, psychotherapy is an excellent vehicle to develop an earned secure attachment. And that's because a good therapeutic relationship provides a kind of secure base. It's a safe place where those old patterns can finally be understood and new, healthier ones can be formed. It's a dedicated process of rewriting those early blueprints.
And that leads us to a final, reflective question. Understanding these patterns is the first step toward change. What is the hidden architecture of your relationships? Thanks for watching. Subscribe to Psy-Key Analysis for more deep dives and share your thoughts in the comments. We'll see you in the next one.